Traders, how are you? Marcello. Today, we are going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. Overall, we have attacks on meat processing plants now. We got holes opening up in Mexico. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Friday, we did have the May jobs report, which showed solid gains that allowed a little bit of confidence, boosted investor confidence. Everybody's hoping, obviously, for economic comeback. The markets in the U.S. overall were mostly positive, not by much, just under 1% or so. Overseas market news, the European markets were mostly positive as well. The only market there that was actually negative was Spain at about 1.49%. One of the things that was interesting that was reported, though, is global mergers and acquisitions reached a record high for the third consecutive month. So far, from January to May, we've had about $2.4 trillion in deals, with May holding a record month at $532.9 billion worth of deals recorded. Obviously, the bubble is everywhere, right? We have the stock bubble, we have the real estate bubble, we have right now we have the cut in production and a lot of things. We have the prices of everything going up, and we have obviously very cheap way to be able to borrow money. So if you're going to go and borrow money to buy a company, this would be the time to do it, because since we have such easing monetary policy and fiscal policy, they just keep printing money, right? The interest rates have to stay low because of they want to boost the economy, which not a very good policy long term, but we can get into that another time. And so there's been a record amount of these deals done, which indicates, again, another bubble. This isn't going to end well. Latin American markets are mostly higher as well, with Canada being at about 0.80%. Africa and the Middle East are mixed. Saudi Arabia being the biggest winner there, with Egypt being the biggest loser. And then Asia and Australian markets, Indonesia was the biggest winner out of all of them at 3.70%. Let me know there in the comments as well if you guys like kind of the more summarized version, right? Where I don't do the percentage. You can just see them here on the side. You can listen to the program on the podcast. I'm going to be doing a lot more of those as well. Just search for Day Trading Academy in iTunes or wherever you guys actually, Spotify, where you guys are able to go ahead and listen to that. So you can listen to these every week. I do these obviously to help, so make sure you leave a like there. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. You didn't leave your like yet, did you? Okay, we'll continue. Other than that, Bitcoin, Elon Musk, again, being the filthy Bitcoin hater that he is, again, he tweeted, caused not a crash, but a little bit of a dip in Bitcoin. It went down close to 70%. Basically, it was a cryptic tweet that suggested a breakup with Bitcoin. Obviously, he prefers Dogecoin. If you guys remember, he actually tweeted that he was concerned about the energy use of mining Bitcoin. Other than that, we do have Bitcoin not at record lows, but we're at 70% off the high. The record high I have noted here, 64,801 on the 14th of April. Overall for the week, Bitcoin was higher, 3.82%, just over 37,000. But you can see we're just kind of consolidating in this zone again. Remember what happened last time with Bitcoin, that we kind of had this huge run up, right? 2017 got to 19,000 and change, and then it took a few years to recover. So that could be what we're going to see now, where we don't see the big run up right away. It might take a while to be able to recover. Dogecoin also is off its highs quite a bit. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, over 50%. It went to about 70 and change. It's at 30%, 30 cents and change right now. Commodities for the week. Crude has been doing extremely well. There was a OPEC meeting this week, and they confirmed that they're going to continue to cut production. In addition to that, everybody's hoping the recovery of the world economy, especially now in the summer season, because we have a situation where everybody in the summer in the U.S. goes on vacation, right? There was a report that the airlines are recovering as well, so it seems like slowly but surely, especially with a lot of people getting vaccinated, we're starting to get back to normal everyday life. U.S. crude for the week went up 4.97%, with international Brent up 2.84%. The concern about inflation is also allowing for gold and silver to go up. Gold was up 8% in May. It moved above solidly $1,900. The record high for gold was $2,074 back in 2020. So we're right at the record high for gold. Silver this week went down about 0.46%. It finished at about $27.91, and gold for the week went down 0.6%. 60% at about 1,893. Other than that, in finance and banking news, the Fed, which is the central bank in the United States, says that it's planning to sell the corporate bonds and the ETFs, the index funds that they bought in 2020 as part of the emergency measures because of the corona pandemic. So this could be a situation where if they kind of start pulling back, that's $15 billion in total. Not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, right? When we're rolling out trillion-dollar stimulus packages, but some now are worried that this is an early warning sign that they're going to start tapering, meaning that the bubble is going to pop, right? So we might have the markets come down, we might have real estate come down. Obviously, these huge mergers and acquisitions won't happen as often anymore. Russia also is concerned about the situation with the dollar. There was a video that I wanted to do in regards to the crash of the dollar, literally, but because I think what happened in February was literally the nail that caused the crack, which I think now is going to be a real significant move. Basically, the sovereign wealth fund in Russia, it's like a fund that a state has, right? A state meaning a country like Russia. They have decided to move away completely from the US dollar. So now instead of investing in the US dollar, they're doing euros, Chinese yuan, and gold. Analysts are also saying that this is a political move ahead of the elections this month. But one of the things that's important to note, especially with the dollar, is the reason why we Americans are able to live the way that we live with the abundance that we have is because we have the world reserve currency. Now, this isn't backed by anything, right? This is just a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper that's green, and the reason why we use it is because everybody's used to using it. You receive it, so that's why I use it, right? Before it was backed by gold, something tangible, something, right? That's why you get a mortgage. They don't say, well, just give them some money for it, give them some pieces of paper for it. No, they say, no, we're going to hold on to the asset, right? We're going to use that as collateral. There's no collateral for the US dollar. So what's happening right now? We have a situation where the treasuries, which is the money that the US government borrows to spend the money that it does, people lend us money. They're people from China, it's institutions, it's other countries, hedge funds, Warren Buffett, George Soros. They just borrow money. It's seen as a secure investment because it doesn't go up and down. It's supposedly a fixed interest rate. But now inflation is starting to creep into the system. Now, it was reported, I say reported, quote unquote, right? Because the numbers are actually a lot higher. I don't think the government ever tells the truth. But they reported that the CPI was 4.1%. It's the highest number since 1992. And the rate at which a lot of products and commodities are going up, commodities being sugar and wheat and oil and all these things, is higher than literally 1971, I believe it was, that real bad year for inflation. And if you don't know what inflation is, it's essentially the devaluation for the dollar, which means that the reason why gold right now costs about $2,000 is because in the 1900s, early 1900s, you could buy 1 ounce of gold for $10 or $20. So now it's not that the gold has gone up in value, it's the fact that the dollar has gone down in value, right? The devaluation of the dollar is what's actually accelerating right now. So the US government is paying 3-ish%, 3.5, somewhere in there, right? Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but it's right in there. And the actual CPI, the reported CPI, is 4.1. So let's put this together now. We're borrowing money, well, way too much, but we're borrowing money at a rate that's lower than what the actual dollar is being devalued at. So we're asking people to give us money that's going to be worth less a year from now rather than being worth more, because we're paying 3% interest on that, right? So if someone borrows us, let's say $1,000, 10% of that would be $10, 1% would be, let me do the math real quick in my head, 10,000, 1,000, 10% is 100, 1% is 10, so it's $30 in interest at 3%. We're paying $30 for them to lend us that money, but the dollar's being devalued by over 4%, and that's the reported amount. The actual devaluation of the dollar so far this year, in my opinion, is 20 to 30%. So people aren't as inclined to lend us money anymore because now their money is being devalued at a faster rate than what we're paying interest for. See the problem? So I wanted to do this video, and that's part of the reason, for example, why Russia is moving away from the dollar in addition to China as well, because obviously inflation is starting to pick up quite a bit. Ooh, that was a good explanation. I spent a while on that, but I want to make sure you guys understand because the things that are coming are very bad. Biden is offering to scrap his proposed tax hike to 28% now that there's a concession, and a lot of G7 countries, the 7 largest economies in the world, have agreed to a minimum tax rate of 15%. One world government, get ready for it. We have the World Health Organization. We have the world military. We have, all these government coin, which is coming, the world money, right? So now there's going to be a minimum tax rate that corporations are going to be taxed at. And this is, in my opinion, another bureaucratic process due to the fact that they're taxing a minimum amount of profit. But you know what companies do. If you guys own a business, I go to the Maldives and it's a business expense. Right? So it's, in my opinion, they should be taxed on the gross income because then they can't finagle the net income and put a bunch of expenses in there. But they did agree to be able to go ahead and not raise the corporate tax rate, right? And so the Republicans now with Biden have negotiated to have a minimum $1 trillion infrastructure bill. In political news, Putin is signing a legislative bill that's going to bar members of extremist organizations from running for office. Sound familiar? Something like that's happening in the U.S. with the censoring. In addition to that, a lot of people are saying that this is just a way to stop the critics of Putin from running from office, especially people that have gained some steam. For example, the billionaire Alexei Navalny, which was jailed in error, a lot of people are saying. Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to discontinue his 12-year reign as the leader of Israel. There's a cross-partisan group. Basically, different government groups have created a coalition, and he's on his way out, even though the one that's going to lead now, named Naftali Bennett, 49 years old, is a former defense minister and a high-tech millionaire, which echoed the same hard line on the Palestinians. So we could still have that very volatile situations with Palestine and Israel. Florida DeSantis ekes out another win. He signed an executive order, and later he signed a law barring vaccine passports in the state of Florida. The cruise lines are now pushing back, and they're not going to require people to have vaccines in order to go ahead and take a cruise. In economic news, Chinese businesses are letting go of more workers than they're hiring, even though the economy is recovering from the pandemic. So even though things seem to be doing well, they're not really as good because they're still letting go more people than they're carrying on. And remember, we're not really having any new jobs, right? Because even though we had record unemployment before we had the pandemic, now we're just starting to recover the jobs that we actually lost. So until we get to the point where we recover all those jobs and then start adding new ones, we're really just backtracking at the end of the day. U.S. workers filed new claims. The unemployment benefits dipped below 400,000 the first time before March 2020, which is the beginning of the pandemic. We also had the labor market add a lot more jobs than a lot less jobs that was expected. The unemployment rate did go down, but this is how the government kind of tries to make things look good, right? They say, well, unemployment went down. But what's actually happening is because of the stimulus checks that we're giving to people, we're giving people a benefit not to work. So now these people that normally would have had a job aren't in the labor force anymore looking for a job, and they're just kind of sitting at home taking money from the government. So you see how that's not really a good thing, because there's a record number of jobs available in history, a record number right now available, but nobody wants to work because of the stimulus. It's going to be just fine. Other than that, manufacturing accounts for 11.9% of the U.S. economy and is supported by a shift in demand from goods and services because of the pandemic. We still have a situation where we have supply chain issues. Obviously, we had a lot of stuff coming in from China. We have bottlenecks at a lot of these ports. We have the return of the meme stocks. AMC and also GameStop exploded this week. AMC over year is up over 1,000%. In 2021 alone, it's up close to 3,000%. Another investment that's better than Bitcoin. Just throwing that out there. So they went after it again. It rose quite a bit. They shot up more than 100%, 140% this week. This is even though the company actually sold more shares. So, a demand and supply. So if you have 1 million shares, but then you sell another 1 million, the value is supposed to go down. It actually still continue to go up. GameStop as well, the original meme stock that caused all this, they actually exploded as well. It went up 6% on Tuesday, 13.34% on Wednesday as the meme offensive, stick it to the man. Other than that, shares of Tesla also went up after suffering quite a big loss on Thursday. They reported Tesla's in trouble. Tesla's in a lot of trouble. Now that the big boys are coming, their market share is collapsing. This on top of the fact that they're really not making any money, right? The more cars that they produce, the more money that they lose. And the only reason why they're actually making money is because of the environmental credits that they actually sell. So I'm going to do a video on that, but Tesla is definitely not in a good position. Maybe that's why Elon Musk is insider trading in Bitcoin, because they can't come down on him like they did before. In technology, the European Commission is announcing digital identity wallets for Europeans to access, listen to this, access public and private services. So in order to access your bank account, applying for a loan, or submitting your taxes, even enrolling in a university, you're going to need to have this pass in your mobile phone. Nothing to see here. Just new world order. Nothing to see here. Soon they'll put the chain on you, right? It'll start with the chip in the forehead, then they'll put the chain on you. We'll be like dogs with the muzzles. There was actually a report that the Chinese central bank digital currency, the digital one, which is what I always told you guys was going to eventually happen, right? It's not about Bitcoin. It's about government coin. They are actually able to turn it off and make it expire. So imagine you're not on the right side of history, whatever side that is. And they just decide, well, this guy says something bad about me. I'm going to turn off his government coin. Can you imagine? Other than that, world's largest retailer, Walmart, employing 1.6 million people in the U.S., is going to give away Samsung phones to be able to help their employees manage their shifts, clock in, and stay in constant communications. In addition to that, they're gonna definitely not an alarmist there, right? Just take it home. Make sure you're there on time. Don't eat at a certain time. It's all about control. Chinese social media platform WeChat, which is owned by Tencent, it's the Facebook of China, used by 1 billion people, is publishing new activities and violations on their live streaming. This includes nose picking, so you can't nose pick. You can't pick your nose anymore. Just in case you guys were, launching a channel about picking your nose, you can't nose pick on the live streams in China. You can't play spanking games. I don't know what kind of things you're into, but that I won't be starting a channel about that anytime soon. And it launched in 2020, and obviously China still has a lot of restrictions about what they can do and how you can do it. The European Commission also is revising their copyright rules adopted in 2020 to be able to go ahead and protect people's work a little bit better. Investment news, Brazil's JBS, the world's largest meat packer, 20% of the meat packing in the U.S. cattle and hogs, told the U.S. government that they were hacked and they would disrupt the production of meat. So you see what's happening, right? Devaluation of the dollar, everything's going up. And then on top of that, what are you going to do when there's no meat at the store? So what's going to happen to the cost of meat? It's going to explode. We're literally getting hit from every angle. So they're saying that it could be a firm base from Russia. Obviously, everything is Russia's fault. And their company's going to come back online on Wednesday. Remember the attack at the oil pipeline. Remember there was a healthcare. This is all escalating. I don't know if you guys can put the dots together. On Friday, Germany's competition antitrust authority is investigating Google News because they want to see if they definitely did not abuse their authority in any way. And in international events, a National Security Archive publication from December 2017 talked about how the leaders of the U.S., the UK, France, and Germany, the U.S. Secretary of State promised Gorbachev, which was the leader of Russia at the time, the Soviet Union, that they would not move eastward. NATO, which is the military alliance of the West, including, Australia and a lot of Western countries, U.S., now they're starting to actually go east. So they actually broke that promise, and now, obviously, Russia doesn't like it. And in unusual facts this week, a few days ago, millions of tons of superheated gas shot off from the sun, sped 90 million miles towards Earth. Normally, these coronal mass ejections were protected because of the magnetic sphere around the Earth that actually protects us from this. But there have been situations in the past that whenever we have some of these coronal mass ejections, CMEs, it's actually damaged electronics here on Earth. If you guys want to look at that or want me to do a video on it, look up what happened during the Carrington event. I believe it was in 1811. We had one of these strong storms hit Earth. I don't know if it was directly or not, but it hit. And it actually was the wires, the electrical wires were literally, they were just starting on fire. So imagine walking down the road and you see the electric lines just burning up. Can you imagine what would happen to our society if we didn't have electric, or part of the electric was actually shut down? One of the interesting things about this, maybe the preppers were right? The interesting about this is that if that does ever happen, like it did in 1811, the last one we missed by about 7 days, 1992, I believe, 2012, sorry. If it does hit us again, in order to create the transformers that we need, the transformers are like those big, because I know some of you might not know what the transformers are. There's those big blocks. I don't know if you guys drive, is sometimes on the block you see kind of those big towers and those blocks of electricity. Those are transformers. So the only place where they actually make transformers is South Korea and Germany. We don't even make them in the US. And so they're probably not going to ship them to the US when Europe needs them and Asia needs them. That's actually something really interesting. Chilean President Sebastián Piñera said that he's going to expedite the same-sex marriage bill. Languished quite a bit in the conservative country of Chile, but now they're moving that bill forward. North Carolina county called Surrey County is looking to ban Coca-Cola on all government buildings due to the politics of Coca-Cola. For me, I always do these videos. I never try to get political because I think we're all tired of it. No matter what side you're on, I think at the end of the day, we're all tired of corporations and companies getting involved in politics. No, like politics should be politics, and companies should just try to sell you their stuff. Don't you agree? And last but not least, on Friday, Trump was decided by Facebook that they're going to continue to ban the former president until January 7th, 2023, which is 2 years from now. More censorship. It could be anybody. It could be you. And for the natural disasters this week, I didn't have time to pull all the list, but there's quite a few things. There's a volcano going off in Colombia, outside of others as well. Etna, which is one of the most powerful volcanoes in Europe, went off again. There's huge sinkholes that are forming in Mexico that are literally taking out entire interstate systems. There's quite a lot going on, so I'll make sure to update that next week. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.